Hey, how's it going, guys? Ancient Rain here, back with another Diablo 4 video, and today I'll be going over my Corpse Explosion build. Now, Corpse Explosion isn't exactly good, as I'm not using Blighted Corpse Explosion, which would make it better. I don't know how it's doing this season, but I really like the Plague Corpse Explosion, which is just getting more stat boost for regular Corpse Explosion. Why I made this build is I just like all the explosions, and this is what drew me and got me addicted to the Necromancer class at Diablo 3. So then I saw it's coming back in Diablo 4, so then I did it then. And since launch, I've wanted to make this work, and as seasons have gone, stuff has been made better. So this is at the very least viable in non-pit content, and then I've been able to push this up to pit 100 with pretty good gear, and comfortably at pit 90, where maybe pit 95 would be more like the middle ground. But this is not some meta best build clears all content insane thing. This is just I wanted to do this and have fun, and if you want to have fun with a build like this and use Corpse Explosion for damage, this is going to be the min-max build for you, with some flexibility and still not needing totally perfect gear. But I would not build up on one of these builds. I would use something like Blood Wave to farm good gear, because that's what I did, farm good gear and then get this, because you're maybe seeing the low billions max on this build, and then it overpowers like 20 to 30 something billion, and that's if you have really good gear. It's not that good compared to the trillions you'll see in other builds. So yeah, if you find this helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Diablo content, and maybe consider becoming a member to get videos early. And let's get going. So the main requirements for this build are going to be the Howl from Below and the Black River. The Howl from Below gives you a increased damage of up to 90% malt, which is very big, so it's getting points into Corpse Explosion, and then also turning Corpse Explosion into a volatile skeleton, which makes it kind of like a mobile Corpse Explosion, but it also does rely on some AI there, but generally it's pretty good if everything's all graped up. And then Black River will consume up to 4 additional corpses, gaining up to 160% damage mult and 50% radius, and that is per additional corpse consumed. So this is going to be really important, as well as rolling chance to double Corpse Explosion damage, which is huge. That's just literally just double damage, and then also just really good skills like Corpse, Hued Fetch, and Fueled by Death. Those are going to be the main two things, and everything else is really based on boosting your damage and some survivability. I am not using the Ring of Sacrilegious Soul, even though I have a really good one. It's literally perfect, because the points in Corpse aren't worth getting a multiplier. It's still very good to where you can use this, especially early on if you get a GA and Corpse skills and then low cooldown on the bottom, but it's better to get a different multiplier. All right, so we'll start at the top. First, we have the Air of Perdition. This gives us 60% mult, as well as lucky hit chance and crit chance, which are very important, as you will want to try and get up to 100% crit chance for always critting, as well as a lot of lucky hit chance for Hued Flesh, because Hued Flesh spawns corpses, and we need those corpses to spawn Corpse Explosion. So lucky hit chance is a big thing here. We want to boost it as much as possible. It has movement speed, which is nice, and then core skills is irrelevant here, does nothing for us. So I mainly look for GA and crit chance and lucky hit chance, and then nothing else really matters here. And then I have Tam Watt here, which you cast a non-channeled core skill, which we are going to be using Blight, and that is non-channeled core skill. You do that 4 times, and then we have Watt, which is for Decrepify. Now you can just use the Cursed Aura on the boots, especially earlier on your build, but this will end up being better when you're pushing, because you really need to get as much damage into this build as possible for it to deal decent damage. So having this on the 10 watt is a lot more important compared to some other builds that easily hit high damage. And then we have a Shroud of False Death. Really, you just want to get a GA in the all stats. I have it in max health just because it's the only one I have that's good. This is mainly for the point in every passive, which just ends up being a big damage multiplier, equaling like a damage passive in here, sometimes better. So getting this is really, really helpful. And then we're back at Howl from Below. Really, you just want a GA in Corpse Explosion plus a high Corpse Explosion damage. Probably the high 70s to 80s would be good. And then a second best thing would probably be either Lucky Hit Chance or Corpse Attack Speed, but those matter a lot less. The Fears and Slows is nice, but nothing to worry about on this build. And then on here, we have Embalmer passive on our pants. Consuming a corpse has a chance to spawn a blood orb. This is good for survivability here, and also just where blood begets blood skill on our Paragon board to get that damage boost. And this just allows that to be easy. So we got damage boost as well as good survivability, since we naturally don't have anything for healing. On here, I use this to get my armor above 1000 armor, as that is the maximum you need on Torment 4. Technically more after the reduced stuff, but here we have 1000 armor, and I could probably remove the total percent armor and get some extra stuff on like spiked armor and my Paragon board. So that's something that's available. I don't know exactly what I would go here, but you could change this up to something else, maybe something utility wise, or you could change it to maybe spiked armor may just be better than total armor. And then I have Corpse Tendril size here. This is just good for hitting more enemies. You can also go Blight Puddle size, as that will mean that more enemies are getting hit by your Blight Puddle, which is a really easy and good multiplier for either bossing or mobbing. The higher pit tiers you go, the more you're gonna be depending on that Blight Puddle. But you really just want to focus on getting GA in the intelligence. You could also go GA in armor, and that would help you not need any extra armor stuff. You also can just use like potions to reach that threshold if you want to. But this is just a good pants I found with GA and intelligence and max life, as you still want max life for survivability. And then we have Yul which cast a skill with a cooldown, and you will activate Warcry. Now there is another one you can use that is very good, which is the Lith instead. Standing still while fighting for 0.3 seconds grants offering. This is really good because it's in Corpse Explosion, we're standing still a lot while we're activating all our corpses, so that's also another option. I think that Yul is probably better for mobbing, while the Lith is better for bossing where you usually need it, so I'll probably change it out. I changed up my armor so much I can never remember what I have on my stuff, but right now I have Yul on here. And we have the with the Barbaric Warcry, as it's a 15% mult. If you need more survivability, you can use the increased max life one if you need to. And then for the boots, you will want to make sure you are getting corpse skills, as we can get corpse skills on here. You can also get corpse explosion points on your chest piece, but it's not better than having Shroud of False Death, as you have diminishing value from having so many points into Corpse Explosion. As right now with my gear I already have 27, and getting those extra points is generally not worth it compared to like a multiplier on here. But on here you also want to make sure you get intelligence and then max life. You could also go armor on here instead of your leggings if you need to, or more movement speed if you want. But then we also have on the tempering, we have the movement speed and Corpse Explosion size. Corpse Explosion size just means you hit more enemies. Now on here, there's a couple options on the aspect. You could go the Exploiters, which will gain up to 45% damage to unstoppable enemies, which happens a lot when you're on Torment and going pit and enemies go unstoppable. Or you can go the dazed aspect, where dazed enemies you deal up to 25% damage. Or you could just go Cursed Aura, but I would definitely go a multiplier here instead. And then the evade stuff doesn't really matter. I have evade charges. I could also go the movement speed one. I'm not a big fan of the attacks reduce evade cooldown one, but if you want to use that, you can. And then on the amulet, we have a couple of stuff. I got a pretty good amulet for this. You're going to be looking for intelligence, collects blood, and amplify, or just anything else that helps. This is better than fueled by death because of the amount of points you use. I don't know if there's anything else that's really helpful. You could go Death Embrace, but it's not a big damage booster. And Perfectly Balanced doesn't do anything. So really, collects blood and amplify are the big things. I would focus on those over the intelligence, but the intelligence is still really good. And then I'd balance out upgrading with Masterwork between the two skill boosts. Intelligence is still really nice, but not the most important part compared to these big multipliers. And they're going to want to look for ultimate cooldown reduction and the corpse explosion size. Ultimate cooldown reduction mainly for bossing, as we are able to cycle Soul Rift pretty easily because of Decrepify, but you'd still want to have this for bossing because you are having less enemies to hit, which means less lucky hit chance for proccing the cooldown. And then we go Corpse Tendrils, which is the Grasping Veins, gain increased crit chance as well as increased damage. My current crit chance is at 86%, not counting anything else that gets increased. So we're hitting over that 100% crit chance very easily. And then we have a 75% molt, which is great. And then on the rings here, we are looking for mainly intelligence and lucky hit chance. Max life is also really good. Lucky hit chance for more huge flesh procs, and intelligence just for more skill damage. Max life is just there for getting better survivability. You could also go attack speed. That wouldn't be terrible, as more hits mean more chances of lucky hits, which means more chance for huge flesh. I would go ultimate cooldown and crit strike damage. Crit strike damage doesn't really matter, but it's like, what else is there? You could also go vulnerable damage, since we are making enemies vulnerable. It's the least important part of these rings, and mainly just the ultimate cooldown reduction is what you need to focus on. And then here I have the Conceited, which is going to be increased damage while you have a barrier active. Since Soul Rift gives us a barrier, we will easily have this active. And then we have Sacrificial, which will boost our sacrifices. Now, if doing non-pit stuff, I would probably get Fast Blood on here, either Conceited or Sacrificial, whatever one you want to do. And that'll mean you will cycle your cooldown better, and you already have Embalmer for spawning blood orbs easily, as you'll just cycle a lot better. Normally with high pit tiers, or high for Corpse Explosion pit tiers, you are hitting enemies a lot before they die, while in non-pit, enemies die a lot easier, which means you're hitting them less, which means less Decrepify procs for lowering your cooldown. So you end up just not having your cooldown back for Soul Rift, which is going to be a big damage boost for and survivability boost for that increased damage, vulnerable, and barrier, as well as getting the damage boost from here, as well as finality from activating your ultimate skill. And then the occult gems we have first is the one where our corpse skills will deal increased damage to hex enemies, 25% molt, easy grab, definitely want. And then we have the 3 or more growth and decay, which powers grades 8% times primary core stat and 10 times % max life, and then become unhindered. This core stat just means more damage. And then we have, while you have an aura active, your ultimate skills are also treated as Eldritch, growth and decay, and psyche. The ultimate skill damage does not matter here. This is for taking advantage easily of Breath of the Coven, which I'll go over soon. And then we have the Black River. Already went over the Black River with the Consuming Corpses. Now the main thing you're going to want to get a GA in is going to be the chance for Corpse Explosion to double. And then you're going to want to look for high to get close to 160% as possible. The Corpse Explosion size being bigger is nice, but not needed at all. And then probably get a GA and Corpse Skills. Now I do have a perfect one, or at least a near perfect one that I bought, just because I really wanted to make this as good as possible. But really, you just need that Corpse Explosion double damage, and you don't even need to masterwork it up at all, because it's like 97%, I think, at 12 out of 12 of the GA. So you could just try and focus on getting Corpse Explosion or corpse skills increased. Huge Flesh is still really good because that's what's getting our corpses. Then Fuel Death is just more damage. And then we have the crit gem on here just because easy, getting crit damage already. And then the offhand, you're going to look for stuff with intelligence and lucky hit chance. And then cooldown rate is also really helpful. And then mainly you're going to focus on getting Titanfall, as that's just a big damage boost while fortified for elites. And then also having crit strike damage just because it's a good, or it's decent damage boost, but it's like the best option there. Definitely focus as much as possible into masterworking Titanfall, as that's a big damage booster. And then we have the Great Feast aspect. Well, when you have no minions, you deal increased damage 45%, but you lose 7% essence per second. This is no problem when you have Soul Rift up, as well as we have a little extra thing to go as well. You could also go crit chance on here, but crit chance is not needed. You already have plenty. Crit chance is really just moving what you need to. And then on our Witchcraft, we have Pyronado, as this will group enemies up together for activating our Corpse Explosion. All enemies together is really nice. Then we have Breath of the Coven, deal increased attack speed per effect, or dealing damage or applying crowd control with these effects means that you will gain increased attack speed up to 45%, which just means more attacks, means more chances to spawn corpses. But this also means when you have all three active, you have 25% increased crit chance or lucky hit chance, which just means better for spawning corpses. So this is just great for spawning more corpses in general. Then we have Aura Specialization for this 35% crit molt. It says plus, but it's actually a molt. And then you also gain increased aura size, which is nice. Then we have Aura Siphoning for healing. Then we have Soul Harvest for 1% primary core stat for each enemy. And then we have Hexa Whispers for potentially getting us more fortified, and also just getting us that third growth and decay power. And then Book of the Dead, we go the crit chance here, as nothing else will help here. Then we go vulnerable here, as we don't gain much from overpower, as we have nothing to force overpower or increase the chance of like overpowering somehow happening. It just is that base 3%. And then we have the increased crit damage. All right, for our skill tree here, we only have these 2 points in Reap to get down the tree. This is what I would use, but I don't need it down here, as I don't need any way to regain essence from this. This 30% attack speed could be nice though, but I'd rather get other stuff. So we get down here and we go 3 points into Hued Flesh to spawn a corpse. And then we also go down Blight, 1 point here and then here and here, as this will give us a 20% molt to enemies damaged by Blight. And that 20% molt, just easy to use, and this is what we mainly use to hit enemies, and it also just has high lucky hit chance of 85%. This monster has 106%, which is crazy, but I choose this for that damage boost. And then we go down here and we've got Corpse Explosion, 5 points into here. Then we got that plus 22. We go here for more radius, but we're also going to play Corpse Explosion, not Blighted Corpse Explosion, just because I like the explosion visuals and sounds that Play Corpse Explosion gives, and that's the whole basis on this build, where we deal 10% increased damage to slowed, stunned, or vulnerable in these stack, which should mean 30% molt. I don't think it's 10 times 10 times 10. I think it's just 10 plus 10 plus 10 in this category. And then we're also getting 3 into Fueled by Death, because consuming a corpse, you gain increased damage. We don't go anything in Grim Harvest, even though we're constantly consuming corpses for essence. We have other stuff going. You could put more points into here if you need to. Something we go over here with Iron Maiden, you could just throw into here, and that could be better with essence. Then we go a point into Blood Mist to activate Blood Mist, and then we go for Dreadful Blood Mist, which gains us increased crit chance, which we don't really need but we go for the 10% increased crit damage after Blood Mist ends, because we need to squeeze out that extra damage, so we have that here. And then we have Necrotic Fortitude, which we don't really need, but I just have one extra point here because I can. You can put it in spiked armor if you need to, but I don't need to, so I just have it here for extra barrier. This can be nice for in between Soul Rift, if that ever happens, having some extra barrier going on. And then we have Titan's Fall. While fortified, you deal 54% increased damage to elites. You have 3 points in that. And then I only have 1 point in spiked armor because that's all I need, but if you need to, put 3 points into it. And then we have Bone Prison. I go max into this as it will help increase the amount of life as well as cooldown, but cooldown doesn't really matter as much. And then we have Enhanced Bone Prison, where enemies inside Bone Prison are made vulnerable, and 15% increased damage. We're mainly going for that increased damage since we already have enemies vulnerable from Soul Rift, so that matters less. And then we have Dreadful Bone Prison, which reduces our cooldown. It's 1 point, so may as well, and I don't really have much else to put it. There are some flexible points here. If you have essence problems, you could also go Ghastly Bone Prison, but it's not going to do too much. And then we're at the Cursed area, where we have Decrepify. You must take these. This is going to be going down to get up Hort. Decrepify with a lucky hit. Enemies hit while afflicted with Decrepify have it up to a 15% chance to reduce your active cooldown by 1 second. This is how we are cycling all of our cooldowns from Bone Prison to Corpse Tendrils to Soul Rift, as well as Blood Mist. So we need this, and we have that Decrepify rune to activate it for us on enemies. And then I also go into Iron Maiden to get more essence from enemies hit by Cursed, and then also some extra healing when we kill an enemy. Because we have all those blood orbs, I don't know how helpful this is. You could take these out. You could go into Precision Decay for more lucky hit chance. It's only a 4% chance difference on like this here. That's 91%. It's like a 6% chance, so that's still pretty good that you could change here if you don't need it. Or for essence gain, you could just go into Grim Harvest, choose what you want, and take it there. I like to keep this here. And then we go 3 points into Death's Embrace for a nice multiplier, also some damage reduction. And then we have Amplify, since we're always having enemies cursed, and sometimes feared from our gloves with Hell from Below. We are easily keeping Amplify damage up, making it also just really good to have from gloves, or not gloves, amulet. Then we're going down here, getting 3 points in Collects Blood, and then leaving that there. 3 points into Reaper's Pursuit. We only have 2 stacks in here, but that's still 16% increased damage, which is really nice. You could replace Blood Mist, but I'd rather take the 10% multiplier than a plus 8% on here. Then we go 1 point into Corpse Tendrils. Everything else is from the corpse skills. And then we're going down here, help spawn more blood orbs. You already have some spawning, but this will help more in bossing, where you could take this off because you have Corpse Tendrils here. But if you just have the boss, then it's going to be a lot harder to spawn versus with these. The other one's vulnerable, but we already have enough stuff making enemies vulnerable. And then if you need to, especially if you do not have Shroud of False Death yet, I would get at least 1 point into Necrotic Carapace. With 1 point, I have plenty of Fortify. I've never noticed me without Fortify, but you can put more points into here if you need to. And then down here, we have 3 points in Finality for 20% increased damage after casting an ultimate skill. Memento Mori for increase to our sacrifices. And then we have Standalone for damage reduction. You could also go some in Inspiring Leader, as this will give more crit chance. If you don't have that 100% crit chance yet, this will be really helpful. And then we go 5 into Soul Rift. This is mainly to decrease the cooldown. If you find you don't need to, then that's fine, but I definitely do on this type of build. mainly for the bossing. You may not notice it with mobbing, but you might notice it for bossing. And then we're going for Supreme Soul Rift to gain up to 75% increased damage, which is insane. And then they will apply Vulnerable, and after Soul Rift ends, enemies become feared and slowed, which is also just more damage for us. And then we go Affliction, as nothing else is good here for us. So we go Affliction for that 15% increased damage. The bottom part does not matter at all. I'd say what's flexible with skill points is Iron Maiden, possibly points in Bone Prison. If you don't want Blood Mist, you can take that out. You definitely want Blight, as it's easy to apply. This point in Necrotic Fortitude's available. This point in Spiked Armor's available if you have enough. And that gives you 8 extra points depending on how often you're close to enemies. Death Embrace is flexible. Definitely a good amount of flexible stuff. If you need a spread out formula, you can take some points out of maybe like Amplify and Collects Blood, but you'd have to math that out, honestly. But then you have availability for Precision Decay, Inspiring Leader, also take some out of Soul Rift potentially. But what I have is what I would recommend. Besides maybe Inspiring Leader, make that how you need to. And then the skill assignment I have up is Corpse Tendrils, Soul Rift, Bone Prison, Blood Mist, and then Blight, and then Corpse Explosion. I'm mainly attacking with Blight on this build, and then because we're getting our essence so fast, it doesn't matter even if it costs 20 essence. And then on my right click or whatever that is for you, Corpse Explosion going, and then activating Corpse Tendrils, Soul Rift, Bone Prism, and Blood Mist as needed. When mobbing, I'll get enemies in Bone Prism and use Corpse Tendrils to help them get in there as well to get those damage boosts. And then if I need that extra damage, I'll go Blood Mist. Alright, now onto Paragon. Now I have a lot of points, so a lot of my extra points are just finding intelligence. So some of the ways I go here, like I could just go 1 point here to get up to this intelligence, but I kind of like go around here because it ends up being better skill point wise, because I'd rather get like that 10% damage instead of +5 strength, but it'll just matter. But I will point out the main things to go for, and some things that will matter here is how much elemental resistance you get will just depend on what your setup's looking like. So if you need more elemental resistance, like if you need these points, then go it instead of like extra intelligence. That will be a big factor here. So we start off here and we go around and we get this max life here for better survivability, and go up and we get to this one. Here I choose essence. The exact placement of each one doesn't matter on here. It can be like whatever you want on each one, but this is just where I kind of chose, not really like a min-max thing, it's just what I did. So we go here and then we also go and get this extra intelligence over here, but we're mainly just going this for the crit damage vault. The actual crit damage additive stat does not matter. I don't go extra points to get more in it. We're just kind of getting intelligence here. So then we go up and around, and we're going to go on the right side to get more max life for survivability. And we have the Flesh Eater board here for the first one. So we're constantly consuming corpses very easily. So this 40% damage boost is always active. And then you can go around here and get extra corpse attack speed. This is really like after you're done everything else and you have those extra points. I already have a lot of attack speed to where I don't really need this, but may as well when I have all this extra stuff. Then we go around and we get here to get the sacrificial, as we don't have any minions active. So this is just an easy boost and we are getting a bunch of extra intelligence. But otherwise we're going up around, getting some extra life here. And then we'll go to the right first, which is the frailty board. So we're going around here and we're going to get to this board and we will have corporeal, which is going to be increased damage with physical damage, which our Corpse Explosion is. So it's just really easy multiplier. And so we're just reaching here with our board. And then we'll go down here and get some easy max health and attack speed here. And also go up and get frailty, where cursed enemies take 10% increased damage from you. And this is a mult up to 40% damage. It's an increased 10% mult for each second they are cursed. Constantly cursing enemies, so this will always be up. And I just have some extra points here for intelligence. If you need to, for extra armor, you can also go down here and get some armor on these nodes, as well as some extra resistance. And then you could also get some more max life here and some shadow resistance if you need to. So then we're going to go back over to the Flesh Eater board, and we're going to go up here, and we are going to the Blood Begets Blood board. Always spawning blood orbs, so we're always getting this boost. So we're going to go up here and go around real quick and get Blood Begets Blood and get that boost. We get the 10% up to 50% increased damage, and then we're going around and up here to get some max life. Same here, some max life and then extra intelligence. But then we go around here and get more max life. Instead of just going like straight here, we go around, which then leads up to here, which we use Amplify for cursed effects. You deal more damage. Just easy boost. So we're constantly cursing enemies, and we get that at least 40% intelligence. And then we're going this way, and we go to the Scent of Death board. Now this board, I don't really have anything else. I used to go the board with like, I think it was a Bone Graft, because I used to go some bone skills. I don't think Bone Prison is really dealing any damage, so Bone Graft doesn't really help as much. It's really just pushing that extra damage. So really getting Scent of Death is mainly for the damage reduction, because with no corpses, you're not dealing damage unless you consume all the corpses in your area right away and get that 15%. So may as well and get some nice quality of life stuff around here. So a lot of this is really just getting right here, and other boards aren't helpful. So we go around and we get Eliminator, where we have that 200 plus 200 intelligence here, because at max you get a 100% increase in normal nodes. So getting intelligence here is really important. It also has just the 10% damage to elites and then the legendary bonus as well, making this really, really good for bossing and just versus elites. So we get every single intelligence on this board. You could go this earlier as well. I know here you will get 200 total as well. You have the same amount, so you could go right there. So we're just reaching all the intelligence. So we're going around getting Scent of Death. Then we're getting some damage reduction here, and then some max health here. You also have some shadow resistance stuff around here. And then if you need more armor, we've got down here for even more armor. This should be base of like over 100 armor, and this should be around 60 armor. So that's, it should get close to like high 160s, close to 200 armor, not counting all the other bonuses, making it really good, and meaning you could probably replace the total armor on here if you wanted to. I'm just not risking it with these pants because I don't want to brick these when it works, so may as well not risk it, but you can definitely mess around with that if you'd like. And they'll just go over again these glyphs. We have Amplify, Corporeal, Eliminator, Essence, and Sacrificial. You could also go Exploit if you wanted to. I wouldn't go Control because you can't always crowd control enemies. Abyssal does work as non-physical. Overpower. You sometimes overpower enemies. You could find a way to take advantage of this, but it's not worth that. Just 2% because you don't benefit from that 20% increased overpower damage. And then I don't go Extermination because that corpse skill is just additive damage, so not worth it at all. And then Mercenary, we go Subo because he highlights enemies for us so we can find the best area to group up enemies and get them, since you mainly just want to like get those enemies grouped up and then explode them as you have all them together to explode those corpses and spawn more corpses, as this build can lack single target damage. But we go with the Seeker of Corpse, then Wire Trap. You could go Ready at Hand or Piercing Arrows, doesn't really matter. And then we go Cover Fire, and then we go Opening Fire for that 25% Crit Strike mult. Doesn't matter, it's Crit Strike, but it's constantly active. You could also go right here as you can get some armor boost as well as resistance boost, but being able to see those enemies helps a lot, and I was like underrating it, so I would not do that if I were you. But we go over here for Bastion for becoming unstoppable, and also just survivability is really nice. And then we just activate it with Corpse Explosion, doesn't really matter too much. And then the playstyle, I kind of went over it a little bit. Let me pop up these skills real quick. Basically, you are just activating Blight all the time, constantly proccing it to get those puddles, and then spawning corpses with it, and then activating Corpse Explosion, and in between those, getting Corpse Tendrils, Soul Rift, Bone Prison, and Blood Mist activated as needed. Pretty simple setup. It just doesn't deal a lot of damage, as this is a single target. Priorities, as always, is getting armor and resistance to max, as well as having crit chance to 100%. We're at close to 100% as possible. I go over it, it's fine. Getting a lot of intelligence with those extra Paragon points is really nice. And just getting health for survivability. And then, of course, just making sure you get health from below in Black River. And make sure you get that GA and double damage. GA and Corpse Explosion does not matter as much as getting that multiplier. This just means we don't have to go like double damage on here. It would replace Titan's Fall, which is not worth it if we can easily get it on the Black River. But that is it for this video. If you have any questions, make sure to comment down below so I can help you. If you have any suggestions to make this build better, please tell me, because I would love to make them better. You can find this build in a link down below as well, where I will have all the skill tree, the items, and everything linked down below so you can see it in that format. Make sure to like the video if you haven't, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.